Hi, I'm Julie with Petty John Quilting. Thanks for joining me for another quilting experiment. Quilters put a lot of money into fabric and a lot of time into piecing quilts. So the care of a quilt once it's finished is very important to a quilter. As a long-arm quilter, sometimes people ask me what they should do for the very first wash of their quilt when it's first made. And I usually share that I use color catchers by Shout. You get several of them. This box has 72, and this is what an individual color catcher looks like. I use cold water, and I put my quilt in the washing machine and my laundry detergent and one of these color catchers. Sometimes I use two if I have batiks. It catches the dye instead of letting it run on the quilt. But I had an idea, and I thought it might be nice to start asking my repeat customers who've been quilting a very long time how they care for their quilts, and then put all that information together so I would have it to share. And I would like to share with you what I gathered from them. One customer said that if there's high contrast and white fabric is in the mix, she says, I put the quilt into super hot water with Dawn. It needs to be submerged for 10 plus hours to release all the dye. If it's bad, I change the water and repeat the process until the water runs clear. So this is to remove excess dye. So you're going to see a lot of color in that water, and you need to rinse that or to drain that water out and then start the process over. And it takes a long time, I guess. It's hot water, Dawn, and repeated rinsings. Okay, another person said that she uses color catchers, but she does wash her backings before the quilts are quilted. Another customer told me that she uses cold water with 1 cup of vinegar. Well, another customer named Kathy Napton told me that she uses Retain, and that's what I want to experiment with today. Retain, she uses hot water. Kathy says it needs to be about 140 degrees, and you can do it in a washer or a tub. Now, I believe that you have to have a top-loading washer to soak in that, and mine is a front-loading washer, so I'm going to use my bathtub. You add 1 teaspoon of Retain for every yard of fabric, and remember, you've got to count your fabric for the front of the quilt and the back of the quilt. You soak it for 20 minutes in this hot water, and then immediately after that, you're going to want to wash and dry your quilt as regular, and so I'm going to use cold water for that. Now, the real important reason that I want to try this, because the color catchers work pretty great, but what's important, I think, is that Kathy pointed out to me that she gifts a lot of her quilts, and a lot of us quilters do that. And once we give a quilt as a gift, we have no control over how someone else is going to care for the quilt. And we don't want anything to happen to that quilt and them not get the joy of having that for years and years. So Kathy pointed out to me that Retain is a dye fixative. That means it is supposed to fix that dye so that it won't run after that. And if you give a quilt as a gift, then it can handle however that quilt is going to be cared for from then on, and however a person chooses to wash it. So we are going to give that a go. We're going to try that today and see how it works. This is the quilt we're going to use. The pattern is made by Deb Heatherly, and it's called Persnickety. I measured it in both directions. One was 53.5 and the other 52.5. So I'm going to round that off. This is the back of my quilt. I'm going to take the length times width and get 2,916 square inches. Now that's per side. Each side will need to be divided by 36 inches to get yardage. So each one of those, front and back, will mean I have 4.5 or 5 teaspoons of Retain that I will need. I began filling my tub with the temperature set all the way to hot. Not knowing if my tub water would be hot enough, I decided to boil a pot of water on the stove to add to it. I added the Retain, and then I added my Quilt. I set my timer for 20 minutes and let it soak. I have to admit that I worried over it, and I had to go back a couple of times and look. And I'm not sure if it was my imagination or not, but I thought I saw some blue in the water, so I was a little worried about it. When the 20 minutes was up, I drained the tub, and I put it in a trash bag to carry to the washer so I wouldn't make a big mess. And I wasn't so certain about it when I put it in the wash. But it did come out of the wash looking fantastic. Here's some photographs I took of it right after I pulled it from the dryer. And I have to say, I really think, in my opinion, that it looks better than it did before I washed it, because I absolutely love this quilted, wonderful texture you get after a good wash. I think that I have found a winner in Retain. Give it a try. Be sure and let me know how it worked out for you.